Hi, I'm Tim Tom Koviak, licensed loan officer, authorized to give you information you need. Thanks so much for watching. Today on this video, we're going to talk about part 3 of the first time home buyer. Now I'm going to go ahead here and share my screen. Let me just click this button here. Okay, perfect. So this is part 3 of the first time home buyer roadmap. And if you watch part 2, we talked about some things that challenges or some things to do. And I'm going to do a quick recap here. So in part 2, if you haven't seen it, it's in this playlist. Just go back and watch it. So part 2, we just talked about credit, income, assets, and then your budget. So you want to do those 3 things. So you want to look at your credit. You want to make sure your income's there, 2 years of work history. You have a little bit of money saved for your down payment, and then a budget. Knowing how much you can afford and have an idea how much your expenses are, your lifestyle. So if you've done those things, it's time to decide whether you want to buy or rent. And that's a big decision. And it doesn't have to be today. You can really think about this one, whether you want to buy or rent. And it doesn't have to be now. If you're working on your credit or you're working on your income or you're saving, it's a big purchase, so it may take a little time. And I'll work with you. I'll help you, counsel you, and get you there. So let's say you decide to buy or rent. We're going to go into some of the pros and cons of both. And I'm going to quickly go through some of the pros of renting. And hopefully you can see these. Yep, you can see these. All right, perfect. So some of the pros of renting is no repairs or maintenance. In most cases, sometimes you are required to do some small repairs or maintenance, but generally speaking, you should not have to do any repairs or maintenance because you're renting, you don't own the home. It's less commitment or obligation. So when you're renting, you usually have a 1-year lease. And after that 1-year lease, you can pretty much move or go somewhere else. Opposed to buying where you would have to sell that home. Sometimes when you rent, you have amenities. Some of them include maybe a pool or gym, maybe a tennis court. There's no down payment when you rent. You maybe just required a security deposit and first month rent, maybe last month rent. It can be more flexible where you want to live, wherever different areas, maybe easier to rent. And then lower utility costs. Normally you're just paying for your 1 unit opposed to, a house, which is a lot more space. So those are some of the pros to renting. And then we'll talk about the cons of renting here. So some of the cons of renting is, number 1, that your landlord can increase your rent at any time. So most landlords, wait until your lease is coming up. And then they would give you a 30-day notice that your rent is going up. But they also sometimes can increase it at any time. It could be in your lease agreement. No one really reads their lease agreement. So they can increase your rent pretty much any time. Of course, you cannot build any equity when you're renting. So basically, the money you pay is just pretty much what you pay for that rent. There are no tax benefits when you rent. So when you buy a home, you can write off your closing costs. You can also write off your interest you pay over the years. So there's some tax benefits and deductions when you buy. Also, you cannot make any changes to the house. Now, sometimes you are allowed to paint with their approval, but generally speaking, you cannot make changes. Opposed to when you own a home, you can make any changes you want. Whether you want to put an addition, knock a wall down, you can do that. And then some places where you rent, you're not allowed to have pets. And then lastly, you're throwing money away when you rent. Basically, what you pay goes away. There's no equity. You get nothing back. And I put this chart here just to show you. And I'm going to zoom in on this chart here just so you can see it. Let's just say you pay $1,000 a month. And after 3 years, you have paid $38,182 in rent. So it's kind of a chart just for mine. You don't want to rent too long, especially if you like the area, if you plan on staying in that area or raising a family. You definitely want to build buy a home. And let's talk a little bit about the pros of buying. So we'll talk about the pros of buying here. Pro of buying is that you're investing in building equity. So basically, as you make your regular mortgage payment, your balance goes down. And generally speaking, your home goes up. So the difference from what you owe and what your home is worth, that's called equity. And that equity, if you was to go to sell the home, you would get that equity back. Or let's say you wanted to take some of that equity out. You could take it out, do a refinance, a second mortgage, things like that. It improves your credit. So what that means is that when you get a mortgage, it goes on your credit report. And when you make on-time payments, your credit goes up. A benefit is greater privacy and control over your living space. So you get a lot more privacy and you get control over your home. And then it's long-term stability. So those are long-term stability. Basically, when you buy a home, your payment's not going to change very much. Maybe just your taxes and insurance. Your principal interest cannot change. And there's more benefits to buying a home, but these are just a few here. And so let's go over some quick cons here of buying a home. So hopefully you can see those here. So number one con is the cost for maintenance and repairs can impact your savings quickly. So that's very important. When you own a home, you want to do a budget. We talked about that. You want to have some money saved up for any repairs or maintenance. You want to maintain your home. You want it really nice. You want to make repairs. Most of the time when you move into the home, it's move-in ready. So you move into a home, and then there's things you want to do to it. I mean, you may want to paint. You may want to move things around. So there's always things you may want to do to your home. And then moving into a home can be costly. Yeah, if you use a moving company, it can be a little costly moving into the home. Or you just get a couple of friends and you move in. And then buying a home is a long-term commitment. So it's a longer-term commitment because you own a home now and you would have to sell that home to get out of it. So that is a bigger commitment, a bigger obligation. So you have an obligation to maintain the home, keep it, really nice and things like that, up to code and things like that. Your mortgage can be higher than rent. So sometimes people get a really nice home and they're paying more than what they paid in rent. And it can be vice versa. It really depends. But sometimes your mortgage payment can be higher than renting. And your property tax can cost you extra. Now, property tax really depends on your area, and that goes into your payment. But there are property taxes. Another thing, too, if you pay off your home, you still pay your property taxes, usually twice a year. So let's say you decide that you're ready to buy. What are the steps? And I want you to write these down here. If you decide to buy, the first step is get pre-approved. And that's something I help you with, or that's something the lender helped you with. What happens when you get a pre-approved, you fill out an application. This is usually online or over the phone. And then you submit some of your documents, your income documentation, your assets. You could use, some documents. And then you get a letter saying that you're pre-approved. The next step, after you have that letter saying that you're pre-approved for X amount, then it's time to find a realtor. And a realtor basically is going to meet with you, find out your goals, your price point. They're going to want to see that pre-approval letter that a lender did. And then they're going to take you out to find the perfect home. And that's basically the steps. So remember, in part 2, you want to check those things we went over in part 2, and then you want to decide whether you're buying and renting. And a little advice here, if you're unstable, like for your job, you're not sure if you're going to have a job, that's a good reason not to buy. But if you've been at your company for a while, you like the area, things like that, those are reasons to buy. You're tired of renting, there's things to buy. And I'll recap these steps for you real quick here. So you want to get pre-approved. You want to find a realtor, and then you want to go out and search for the perfect home. Now, if you find value in these videos, if you like it, I would really like it if you could give me a thumbs up, maybe leave me a comment, connect with me on other social media platforms. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and this concludes part 3. All right, stay tuned, and I'll have part 4, and we'll continue this on the first-time home buyer list. Thank you so much for watching.